Okay, this class is, I hope to give an outline of the curriculum for this particular class today by the time we get done, but I want to do some introduction to what's going on here first. I suppose, did everyone read what I handed out in church yesterday? Okay, I want to address that a little bit. If you see what's going on around the world, let's put it in the prophetic scenario. We came to understand, and I'm making the assumption, or perhaps, where'd Chris go? Chris is back there. Let's start by, even though we probably already know, let's formally introduce ourselves. Would you tell us who you are, Chris?
Full name is Christopher Sean Gleason.
Where are you from?
From Brooklyn, New York.
And how'd you get here?
I was invited by Brother Jeff.
No, I mean, you just drove here from Brooklyn over
Yes.
the past couple days, right? You had some problems along the way.
Yes.
He was, from what I could tell, I've met him a few times, but we did some meetings down in Jamaica here recently, and he was there. It was the first time I really spent very much time around him. And from my perspective, he was a co-worker with another brother named Teon, and Teon and his family brother, Conard, agreed to go to Jamaica. They have Jamaica heritage, and lead out in a prophecy school there. But when Teon was going to leave Brooklyn, it was going to leave him pretty much alone. They were co-workers, so that's part of the reason I invited him here, where he's not losing his partner in this work and stuck in the city of New York. Okay. You want to tell us again who you are, Jonathan?
Yeah, I'm Jonathan.
Yeah, get more specific.
I'm from Germany, southern part, and we arrived here on Thursday with the airplane. And yeah, we have a ministry in Germany called Finn, Futures Now. Yeah.
And who's sitting next to you?
Yeah, this is Sarah. She's my wife. We just got married
When?
in October of last year.
Okay, so we're not supposed to ask him to do any work or anything. Neither one of them for the first year of marriage. Alright. So, when did you and I first meet? I don't remember, but I thought you guys might. Your mother does. This is Jonathan and Tamina's mother, Esther. When did we meet in Germany?
It was 2003 in August.
Okay, August of 2003. So I've known Tamina and Jonathan
How old were you?
since they
Tamina?
were little kids, pretty much.
13 years.
No, she was younger than that.
No, 13 years ago.
She was
Oh,
11.
was it?
10 years old. Little girl.
Little girl with really long,
All the way
straight blonde
down to
hair
her butt.
that liked to go out and chop wood.
Oh, yes,
Okay.
dear.
All right. All right, but we already know Tamina, and this is their mother, Esther, and their dad, their husband, is back in Portugal where they live. They moved out of Germany to Portugal. That's where their ministry is located now, about a couple hours from Fatima, right?
Yes,
If you know about Fatima.
2 hours.
2 hours, okay. And then we have some people that are down here enjoying the warm weather from Canada. You want to tell us who you are?
Yeah, I'm Henry Toms. Yes, and of course Alison, my wife. So both of us were from the British Columbia, pretty well in the middle of it. And yeah, from nights of minus 20 or 25 to nights like this, it's Celsius, of course. It's rather nice.
Still cold here, though.
Yeah.
Still pretty cool.
Yeah, the humidity makes it colder, exceed colder here than sometimes it's over there.
It's nice not having a foot and a half of snow in the yard.
Yeah.
Years ago, before 2000, well, I don't even remember, 1990 something, I went to and something I never do. A friend wanted me to be there. I have no confidence in what I'm going to tell you about. But I went to an ASI meeting in Palm Springs, California. Kathy and I did. And we met a Canadian there that at that time was the evangelist for Canada. His name's Vic Gill. And I gave him a set of materials, and from that point on, Vic Gill has semi-followed the message. He's out doing his own thing, but I haven't heard from him recently. But he invited me up to do a prophecy school on the east side of Canada in, what's it? Pugwash. What's the province up there?
Ontario?
No, it's on. It's by New Brunswick. Anyway, it's on the east side of Canada, and we met a sister up there, and she started the ministry of Future News, and then she handed it off to another brother, and the other brother handed it off to Tabot, and they're in the area of Canada where the ministry is now located. It's went from the east side of Canada is what I'm getting at. You're saying in the center? British Columbia is on the west side, isn't it?
British Columbia is in the west side. We're just located in the center.
In the center of that province.
Yeah.
Okay, so Tabot will be here when? Lord willing? Today. And so the Canadian camp meetings we've had that we participated in over the past few years is where we really got to know Henry and Allison, and they've always had a desire to set up a country ministry up on their property. What kind of how many acres do you have?
154.
Wow.
Out in the middle of the Canadian woods, if I understand it right, where they still haul their own water type stuff. Is that right?
Pioneering.
Yeah. Okay. So pretty primitive. So this is a vacation for them. This is a Holiday Inn down here. All right. Okay. So now we have to be timely here in the glorious land. And I'm talking to you, my brother, daily. Okay. This is not the UK. You want to introduce yourself for everyone, even though you may have done it already. You want to repeat it?
Yeah, my name's Coleth Bailey from the UK.
Okay. The only one that you may have missed, because we introduced ourselves at church yesterday for the record, but Chris got here from the Bronx. He's been traveling by car.
Okay.
All night.
Brooklyn.
All night. Pardon me?
Brooklyn.
Oh, Brooklyn?
Brooklyn.
Why am I saying the Bronx? Where'd I get that? Doesn't anyone up there?
Yeah, there are some that are in this message that are from the Bronx.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah, maybe I've never connected you.
Okay, so anyway, in the timeline that we deal with from 9/11 to the Midnight Cry to the Sunday Law, early on in this history that we're living right here, we became aware that the lines of prophecy teach that there's a work of organization that goes on here. And this particular handout right here is an illustration of our effort to participate in that work. We contacted some people a few months ago that we knew around the world and asked if they wanted to be involved with kind of setting up a network in association with this message. Virtually everyone that we contacted responded in the affirmative. And so over the past 2 weeks, I never asked for these. I asked the people that are in these different settings to keep us updated on what they're doing in their locales, but I never asked for them all to send us in. This is just what's coming in. If you've read it, you realize that the first one about South America, you may not be aware that that's Marco Barrios. He and his wife are going to be here at the end of this week. They already have all kinds of contacts going throughout South America. This is just the most recent one that he sent a few days ago. And he sent it speaking about having 300 people at a meeting in Cochabamba and more on their way. He sent that probably because of all the places in South America where I visited Colombia more. I mean, people knew this message in Colombia. We were down there for several years over and over again. Been to Cochabamba several times. but the people that we would go down there with, they turned against this message, and they turned against me, and they started telling stories about our ministry and myself down there. So it's been a little bit difficult for this message to get back there and get heard, but it's happening now. For if there's 300 plus people coming to those meetings, I guarantee that there's a high percentage of them that are doing it because they learned the basics of this message years ago with the, you know, the Daniel 11:40 to 45 and the basics of the timelines. But Marco's working in Bolivia, Marco's working in Argentina and Brazil and Guyana. Okay, so then you have Noel and Heather, who will probably, if you haven't met them, they're supposed to be here before this trimester is over. They're having a difficult work in Mexico. Mexico got started well, and then a brother that jumped ship on this message has been down there teaching against what we're teaching and teaching a bunch of foolishness, so they're having to go back in and re-educate those people that have got turned upside down. But nevertheless, they're getting started in Mexico. They're looking for property to start a school. And then Africa is it's just going through the roof. And this isn't all of the input that we could give you about Africa. And if you've seen what's going on in Europe and Romania, Philip wasn't here the last trimester, was he? Philip, 18 or 19 years old? 19 years old. We got to know him from meetings in Romania, and his big burden was to learn physics. He was going to the university studying physics, and he wanted to finish that, and I encouraged him to come to a trimester. So he broke out of his university studies, came here for this trimester, and as you can see here, he has now he's at the point where he's going to do this message full time. He's evidently not worried about going back into the secular university to learn that information, and he's having success, and he's only 19. And Romania is hard. We've been to Romania. If you count the times that people that we work with have been there, when we haven't, we've probably been over there about 10 times. Kathy and I have been there several times. I've been there times without her. But Romania is a difficult place, but Romania is starting to go as well. Australia, you got a nice report here, and then I got a report this morning on an email where they're having a shaking in Australia. I get a report with glowing terms about Australia a few days ago, and now they're having a shaking. Brazil, if I understand it right, and I think I do, Brazil has more Seventh-day Adventists than any other country in the world, and Brazil is starting to take hold. As you can see, they're planning several camp meetings there this year. And then Jamaica, we went down there. Do you remember the dates we went down there, Chris?
It was November.
Beginning in November?
No, right towards the end, but we came back towards December 2nd.
Okay, so we were down there at the end of November,
Yes.
and they had rented what we would call a duplex here in the United States for the meetings on an old property that Jockey Underwear used to manufacture jockey underwear for years, and then they found a country where they could get cheaper labor than Jamaica. So it's just this big empty complex. But it's got a big building that is now used for seminars and conferences. And this weekend, on the very property, here's the seminar place, and you couldn't hit a baseball from the duplex of this seminar place, but almost if you were. I don't know how many 100 yards it is to the seminar place. And this weekend, the conference brethren were holding a big conference right there on this property, and they know what's going on in this little duplex, because even though we were there at the end of November, The second week of December, they started a prophecy school there, and they have students, and they're teaching this message. And as I said, Brother Chris's friends, Tayon and Conard. Conard's married with 2 children. They've all went back down there. They're living in that duplex, and they're starting the ministry. And if you're not aware of it, even the Seventh-day Adventist Church relates to Jamaica as the launching pad for the Caribbean. For Adventism, that's the place you go if you're going to send out missionaries to the rest of the Caribbean. It's Jamaica. So the Lord raised up a school right off the bat there. Now, the point is all of these places that are going on have had some kind of connection with this ministry, and some of the main personalities that are leading out in there have been in this school. Okay, they've been here. So what I've come to understand personally, I don't know if this isn't going to be the case from here on out, but up to this point, it appears that this school isn't a school to teach students. It's the school that is teaching the teachers that are going to end up going out to planet Earth and carrying this message. So it's kind of a higher expectation about what we do here, I think, than just a typical Adventist, school. But there's shakings that go. This is hard to understand how this is going to get organized and merged together. Just yesterday, we heard shakings that have went on in Europe. Okay, there's shakings going on in Australia, and I'm aware of other shakings.
Brazil, huge shakings. They're going to disfellowship everyone who attends their camp meetings.
Okay, in Brazil, they're going to disfellowship everyone that goes to camp meetings. I'm not talking about those kind of shakings. I'm talking about shakings between the people that are supposedly pressing together to carry this message. The principle, the principle that we're trying, we never self-appointed ourselves as the network hub, but we did see that organization became a waymark in prophecy. So we decided we would, at least start that ball rolling. But when it comes to organization, one of the main places that the Seventh-day Adventist Church has failed, if you want to type in kingly power, you will find quote after quote about kingly power. Sister White teaches repeatedly that the General Conference isn't supposed to be controlling the divisions, and the divisions aren't supposed to be controlling the unions, and the unions aren't supposed to be controlling the conferences, and the conference leadership isn't supposed to be controlling the churches. Every entity is supposed to govern itself, and you and I don't know the specific needs that come up in Africa. We're just not there, or Australia, or anywhere else. For us to try to manage or control those things from thousands of miles away is just humanly stupid. But Sister White specifically tells us we're not supposed to do that. So what I'm saying is, even though we've thrown the ball into play here in terms of trying to connect all these various groups, we're already getting kind of pleas from these various groups to come in and solve our internal problems, and it's not what we're supposed to do. You're not supposed to be doing kingly power. There's not supposed to be no Jerusalem Center governing everything, and it's much more complex than it may appear. So the reason I'm telling you that is in connection with this. Here in the United States, in this letter, we have a work that we're trying to do for our ministry that's our own responsibility. And I'll boil this down to this. At this trimester, you should understand. If you don't understand this, there may be some things that happen that are a stumbling block for you. There are many other things going on here besides these classrooms. Okay, for instance, Parminder, who is going to teach this particular class through this trimester, is going to go down in February and do a couple of the camp meetings in Brazil, so he's gone. Kathy and I are going to go visit the brethren in Alabama next weekend. So there's going to be things like that come up from time to time where and some things that we don't know about, no doubt, along the way, where some of the teachers may be here and there, and they're going to have substitutes along the way. It's just what's going on right now. That it's you need to be aware of that. So I didn't intend to do much presenting of a message this morning. I wanted to acquaint you with the work that was going on here. One little story that popped into my mind that might help you get the significance of this. When I was fired from Hope International many years ago, whenever that was, at that time for other reasons, I remember that they had 21 people on their payroll, and essentially what they were doing is putting out a monthly magazine, doing some camp meetings, not so many camp meetings, and selling books and DVDs. Okay, we have maybe 7 people on our payroll. We're putting out a regular publication. We're doing meetings on a regular basis, and we're participating with these groups in the United States and participating with these groups around the world. So what I'm saying is the staff that you see here, it's not even close to the amount of people that it should have to do what it's doing and manage the garden and the greenhouse. And so we are extremely understaffed. Okay, so you need to know that one going in also. And you can see that when everyone gets here, we don't even have half the students that are supposed to be here. There's going to be people over there in that overflow room. You've seen, no doubt, the building out there where we intend to have a classroom, and that will be resolved. But in the previous classes, we always had tables like this for everyone. But if we tried to have tables in here for you now, counting the other people that get here this week, you just wouldn't have room, and this is all we have. So we're less user-friendly in this class than we have been in the past trimesters. It's nice in a classroom to have a table to keep track of stuff. Yes.
Yeah. You're finished?
No, I'm not finished, but go ahead.
Well, because you said you weren't going to present anything specifically, and I was wondering if you could take time at some point to explain what the role of the conference was to be, the conference and the unions and all these things. What is their role? Because I understand they're not supposed to be lording over and micromanaging every.
You're supposed
subdivision,
a union or a division is supposed to contact, as I understand it, the general conference and saying, hey, we need help in this regard. We need some manpower over here. We need some money over here. We need these kind of materials over here. And if the general conference has the ability to help along that line, that's what they're supposed to do. That's how I'm relating to it.
I understand.
We already selected a couple of guys to go back and help the people in Australia get settled into this message, where the message could be their own and they could run on their own steam. And part of what I heard this morning is they're not happy with the people that we've selected to go over there. And I get it. They were 2 young men, and neither of them are married, and
they're new.
they're new, yeah. But so they they don't understand. What are you going to do? How many people do you have that have an experience in this message, have the ability to teach it, have the freedom to go down to someplace like Australia for a couple months and hang out there and teach the message, and are married, where you don't have any kind of appearance of inappropriateness along that line. We don't have that kind of army up and running. So that's another subject. There are people around the world that are holding camp meetings, and they're wanting to invite speakers that they know are associated with this message, but some of them want to invite this personality because they like him best, or that personality because they like him best. And you can participate with sending bodies down to help, but you have to have the freedom to choose who they are, because you've got other places you're sending them, and it's just, it's crazy.
So, so then with the conference, the way that I'm kind of understanding it, and if it's correct, then what they did is they turned into like a corporation where it's top down.
Yep.
And so it's like, you know, you're the president, you just say what happens and it's policy straight across the board. And the other way is these little entities are all connected to a main hub, and that main hub is just distributing the needs of maybe money, maybe people, maybe resources to these other individuals.
Or connecting.
Yeah,
People.
yes, but there is a balance,
Yeah.
okay, because there has to be leadership.
Yeah.
Okay, the reality of it is, had we not said, okay, we're going to try to set up this network this way, no one else would have tried it. And if they would have tried it, they probably wouldn't have had the ability to make it get started right off the bat, because they wouldn't have had the reputation that Future for America has. So there is leaders that the Lord selects, but they're not supposed to exercise kingly power.
For example, if you try to invite a certain speaker to your local church, you have to ask the pastor. If he doesn't know this specific guy, he's going to the conference and ask. If they don't know, they're doing all the way up. And if you get anywhere a no, it goes all the way back, and then it says no at the conference. This is how they, at least in Germany, how they try to rule.
Kingly.
Well,
Yeah.
if you were going to have another camp meeting next year, as I know that you are, there are certain personalities that would lead you to believe that they're in this message, and if you invited them to come speak, I would send you an email saying, you shouldn't have that person there speaking.
But it would
And
still be
if
up
you
to
have
them.
that person there speaking, I won't come speak there on the same platform. So there is a little bit of that is legitimate.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, but I mean, if this is just the only argument, just this conference says no, and then everything is shut
Yeah.
down. But I agree with that not everything should come to the church and speak whatever they want to. There needs to be a power who says no, that is okay, that's not okay.
It's a really delicate.
One of the best things would
But you need to know here, okay, you need to know here, whether you get it or not. This is a fishbowl that you're in, this ministry, and there's always something going on. As an example, most of us were in church yesterday, right? Were you aware that there was a personality there that was pulling people aside just to make sure that they knew that I have been disfellowshipped? Okay, did you know that? So there you were in this environment and didn't even know that kind of activity was going on. That kind of activity always goes on in different ways here.
Satan is always on the ground.
Always. Okay, brother.
I was going to
Cool.
say, because we're talking about who and who can preach or will or won't preach with this or that person, would it make sense to have like some kind of our own version of a 27 fundamentals kind of thing?
Ooh,
man.
we're forming a creed, huh?
No.
I wouldn't see us forming a creed, but
We're already struggling with that. There is a personality that some of you know personally, some of you know just from internet or whatever, that we consider part of this, that has some ideas that have already caused a shaking, and we're trying to figure out how to come together and solve those different ideas where there is not a parting of the way. So you're going to have to do that. It's already happening among us, and how to do it in a Christ-like fashion, but in an efficient fashion, is a trick. And there's all kinds of calls for people that want to be baptized. Okay, so I'm not pushing this issue, but if people are wanting to be baptized, then you got to get in the spirit of prophecy in the Bible and determine what the criteria is for baptizing someone. And part of the criteria is that they understand the truth. So what is the truth that they are to understand? Is it the 27 fundamentals of Adventism? Or are they supposed to also understand and accept that 9/11 is a fulfillment of prophecy and all the things that correspond to that? So if you're being asked, if this ministry is being asked to put its seal of approval upon a baptism for someone, Sister White says the candidates for baptism need to be shown the fruits of conversion. Okay, so we've been asked more than once, okay, you're coming to do our camp meeting in this country. You're going to be there for a week, and there's people there that want to be baptized while you're there. Well, how do I know that they show the fruits of conversion? I've never met them before in my life. How do you know that someone has shown the fruits of conversion?
You have to trust the leading brethren in that area.
That leading brethren in that area have to fulfill their responsibility. But I mean, in order, even the leading brethren that are fulfilling that responsibility, they have to have worked with that person well enough to know, well, this is what he used to be like, and now he has demonstrated that he is a converted person. This is much different than simply teaching the prophetic message. So this is church work, so to speak, and it's.
So would you condone someone being baptized at the nominal church? If they just was on the internet, a non-believer, not an Adventist.
What is baptism at its basic level? It's a public demonstration, okay,
Of inward conviction.
of an inward conviction, or of. So, yeah, I think when people are under conviction of the Holy Spirit that they need to be baptized, you should participate in that. But if you're going to participate in it, then you don't need to do it like the Adventist Church does it now. The Adventist Church has lost its way on this.
Just line them up and start dunking.
It don't even matter, okay? You know, you all know the stories.
They're good to go.
Okay, the stories about the things that are set aside in advance of baptism, and okay, if you're going to be baptized, you can't be doing that today, but you can return to it tomorrow, no sweat. Now you're on the church books. That isn't baptism.
It goes against the Bible because it says teaching and baptizing, and it
To
puts
observe
teaching-
all things.
It teaches, you first have to teach them, and then they should be baptized.
My daughter has a wonderful baptism story along that line. Okay.
Was that a yes or no?
If people are under conviction to be baptized, then they should be baptized, and if they're desiring for someone to do it, and the only place to, and there's still, we're not teaching that you separate from the Adventist Church. So if that's where they're regularly going, I don't know. That you'd have to, I guess, take it by each circumstance. That is my point, though, is that organization has demands that are being made around the world that are totally something different than simply teaching the prophetic message. Okay, whether you're aware of it or not, in South Africa, and I'm sure in every country this has happened, it's happened here in the United States. In South Africa, there is a Pentecostal cult. There's a powerful personality that leads out in this, and everyone in South Africa knows about this crazy fanaticism that's there. And after we visited Zimbabwe, the newspapers in Zimbabwe turned upon those people that accepted this message and bought some property and started a school out in the country. And it was in the front pages of their newspapers that these people had left the Adventist Church and went and started this ministry, and they were being compared with this fanatical, charismatic guy in another country. Okay, so I don't know why I was telling that. I lost my thought.
Complicated facets of organization.
Yeah, it's more than teaching the prophetic message. But for you here as students in this class, well, what I'm wanting to introduce you to here this morning on this subject is that this isn't going to be a typical college course or high school course where you're just going to class each day and then you go home and do your own thing. This is a work in progress in terms of the buildings and the curriculum, but this is I don't know.
We need all their efforts.
Yeah, you're talking about their help. I'm talking about you need to be aware that this place is under attack 24/7, and that we're doing other things besides this school. So sometimes when you may have expected a teacher or something to take place, it may not take place because someone gets called a different direction. But also what you need to be aware of is that if I'm right, and this may be only me that's under this conviction, you're not being, we're not relating to you as students. We're relating to you as people that are being taught to be teachers. Okay? We're teaching teachers here. We're not teaching students. And we have the track record to show it. Almost all of the people that have went through this school are now somewhere participating in this work. And it seems that that is
With
the Lord's
exception of
design.
only two people.
Only 2 people, and
Who's this?
the one from San Diego and the one
Yeah.
from Michigan.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So we ask our students or our teachers, I'm sure maybe we didn't ask them this year, or this trimester, but we always ask the teachers to have a curriculum where they can tell their students at the beginning of the course, this is what we're going to cover. This is what will be expected of you throughout it. This is the book. Daniel Fontenot has a book that he's going to go through by Bliss. You'll know from the outset that this is what material you're going to cover in Daniel's class or Dwayne's class or Gabriel's class. But that doesn't happen in this class, okay? Because this class, through the Lord's providence, we have allowed the flow of the prophetic message to be the guiding direction of where we go with this class. If you go back through and look at them, you'll see that I've said, okay, we're gonna focus on this, and before 2 or 3 classes, we never get back to that subject again. All right, and people may critique it and say, well, this is just lousy instruction, but I don't think so. I think that I'm hoping that this class has been designed by the Lord, that He can take the study where He wants to take it. So we had some definite big issues that were unresolved in the last trimester, not because, and that's the other thing. When someone like Daniel says he's going to take you through Bliss's book on Miller, he has a book as a point of reference, and if he has 14 classes, he breaks it up into 14 parts, and that's what you're going through. It isn't that way in this class. So the things that were unresolved were not unresolved because I already know the answers to these questions, and I just didn't get the time to answer those questions. It's because this class is willing to allow the Lord to bring up a subject, knowing full well that when it comes up, none of us fully understand it, but we're going to throw ourselves into trying to understand it. Is this all logical to you?
Morning worship.
You want to call it morning worship? Okay. But this isn't my class.
Evening
Parminder
worship.
will be very organized and
Systematic.
systematic. He's going to be very, you know. So, what I'm planning on pursuing is that in Revelation 9, we have the 5th and the 6th trumpet, which contributed to the empowerment of the message of the Millerites on August 11th, 1840, which typifies 9/11. But you can't separate Revelation 10 from Revelation 9, because Revelation 10 is describing the history of the Millerites, where Revelation 9 empowered that movement. And then you have Revelation 11, where you see the presentation of the message of the hour and the persecution that is brought upon those that present that message. So I'm purposely just talking about Revelation 9:11. 9 through 11. Just from those chapters you can put together a point of reference for the subjects that we have not seen the Lord resolve yet. And those subjects are that we came to understand from Revelation 9 that, and I'm making the assumption in this class that we're all up to speed on this, that based upon Revelation 9, in connection with what? This being Revelation 9 without me putting any, pardon me?
Luke 1.
With Luke 1. Okay, this is a very, where do we put this waymark of 9/11 in Luke 1? Zacharias struck dumb. Okay, and what happens to his wife?
She goes into hiding. She's pregnant.
She's pregnant, so she goes into hiding for how long?
5 months.
5 months. So in connection with these two witnesses and the witness of Ezra 7:9, Matthew 25, and the reform lines, we came to understand this period being what we call the what?
Hiding.
The binding off. Okay, so we still have much to understand about the binding off, right? We haven't dead-ended that where we can write an article in our newsletter and say, this is the binding off. We don't have to deal with it anymore. There's still light that has not been recognized in the binding off. What happens in this binding off period in terms of visions?
Predictions?
Prediction. I'm going to get to prediction. The Mara.
Oh, tomorrow.
So we're still in the process of understanding the Mara, right?
I just want to add that we have both of these. We have 2 articles that help to summarize what we understand thus far of these 2 subjects. And if there's more, I'll let people know.
You have 2 articles.
We have 2 articles that summarize these and point to wherever you or anybody else has talked about it. So we have 2 articles that are summarizing, but not saying,
Okay.
stem. And it's done.
How accessible are those articles?
They're gonna be
Gonna be.
edited. No, they're done. They just need to run through the editing process and published. But we can make them accessible.
So can you print them out today where I can
Yeah.
hand them out at evening worship
Yeah.
tonight?
Yeah.
Okay, so the Mara, the binding off, we're going to deal with. But what did Kathy say? The prediction. Why? What does the prediction mean? What does that mean?
It's in conjunction with the guy that said about
Josiah Litch.
Josiah Litch, yeah.
Okay, so but what does that mean for those people that might be watching on the internet? What are we identifying by the word prediction in here?
Islam.
The midnight.
Okay. That God's people that are following this message are going to make a prediction as typified by Josiah Litch. And when they make that prediction, what will happen to them?
A great impetus.
Nope.
Persecution.
Persecution. People are going to say this is a bunch of
Oh,
foolishness.
first, yeah, at first.
Okay,
Then it
did
brings
that not
power.
happen to Litch?
Yeah.
But when it comes to pass, then there is an empowerment. What is the first point of reference for this? And you may not know this answer. That's only the first point of reference in my mind. Where is this illustrated classically in the Bible? Elijah. Okay, Elijah in his history is illustrating a prophet that is being distinguished between himself and the false prophets. Okay, so the story of Elijah was fulfilled in the Millerite history perfectly. It gets fulfilled again in our history. And in our history and in the Millerite history, at one level, what was being accomplished by the Lord is he was identifying who was his messengers in that history or in our history, in contrast with those who were the false prophets, who were not his messengers, okay? And in order to accomplish that, this prediction is going to draw some focus upon God's people that make this prediction. What are the elements of the prediction that we know so far?
Number-wise, or
Number-wise, what do you mean?
well, we have prophetic symbols like the number 38.
No,
40.
yeah, but that's the nuts and bolts of the waymarks. What it's going to be about Islam, isn't it?
Yep.
What else?
It's gonna take place at the midnight cry, or not at the fulfillment takes place at the midnight cry. Or at least this.
Yeah, that's to me is the waymark. So the message itself is going to be about Islam,
A crippling of the United
about
States.
the USA. It's going to be a message about marriage.
And the Sabbath. No,
Well,
later.
marriage/image. But this message, it gets directed to the leadership of the United States. What else does it get directed to? The leadership of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. Okay. It's not Elijah that's caused the problems. It's Ahab that's caused the problems. Of course, you can mark him at one level, the United States, one level, leadership of the church. Any other elements to the message? So we're going to deal, Lord willing, we're going to deal with the binding off, the Mara, the prediction. What else is connected to this that we did not? The number 4 is still not, you can tell it's not dead-ended yet either, but
Just circle that number 4 right
circle it,
there. No, on the right hand side. There you go. You already got it.
the number 4. For those of you that have participated in the class, what else have we not, on this line of thought, what else do we need to resolve?
Priests and Levites, right? The 2 classes that are involved in that line.
It's pretty straightforward. But priests and Levites, yeah, we'll have to deal with all these elements of the waymarks.
Zechariah's candlestick.
That's, I'm glad, not the candlestick.
The sanctuary.
Okay, the opening of the temple,
the
okay?
interview that-
The temple's getting
Right.
opened right here. Y'all.
Oh no.
Too long in Arkansas. You all heard the sermon yesterday, right? Okay, so what did Dwayne not include in his sermon? Did you see anything? Probably tons of stuff. But that is the wrong way to ask that. He's saying that the 2 years, did you get that in
Yes,
Genesis?
2 and 5.
7 years here of plenty. 2 years of
They still have
famine when he is interacting with
His brother.
Jacob's sons, and then there's going to be 5 years of famine that follows here. This is what he was saying. But he was focusing on the candlestick. Okay, and he told us, and I think it's valid, at least at one level, that the midnight cry is the candlestick. All right? It's the bright light that is set up behind us. It's also, Sister White's clear, what also is the bright light that's set up behind us?
The light in front of me.
It's the midnight cry, but it's a candlestick. But what other biblical reference marks a light that is the light of the midnight cry?
Pillar of fire.
What-
Sister White says Abraham's act of faith in sacrificing his son is a bright light that was set up at the beginning that shines light all along the path. This is Abraham and Isaac right here. How old is Abraham?
120.
120 right here. So here is Abraham's act of faith, or of course the 120th fractal can go here too, but right here. So all Dwayne was dealing with was this candlestick here. So when it comes to opening the temple, which we need to, of course, focus on. You see anything from his sermon yesterday? He was saying the midnight cry was the candlestick, right?
Right.
So what would this waymark be?
Same.
At the fractal there, what would this waymark be? What happened on October 22nd, 1844?
Christ entered the
Dwelt
most holy
most
place.
The temple in heaven was opened.
Opened, oh yeah.
Okay, so right here, this is October 22nd, 1844. This is where the temple gets opened. So what is this?
The holy place.
The holy place. Okay, and he's talking about the light was the message, right, in his sermon, and it had to, and he was talking about the light enlightened your eyes. Okay, so this here in this testing process, what kind of test is this here? This is the image of the beast test, right? Visual. So he could have plugged that in there, but he didn't have time. But I mean, you got the visual test right here to lay right over his sermon.
If that's the truth, then I wondered why he didn't divide up between 9/11 and the Midnight Cry into a 5 and a 2, 5 being the first portion and the binding off actually being a 2. Because that 2 is a visual there, and that 2 there is where you visually start seeing the fanaticisms melt away. See how you have the 2 and the 5? If he had done that.
Okay, we're so familiar with fractals now.
No, I'm just saying that I wondered why you wouldn't put the binding off as that 2, because the characteristics of the 2 between the Midnight Cry and the Sunday Law will also fit perfectly into the binding off.
Okay, is that how you would do it?
That's
Do everyone understand what she's saying?
She's saying the Midnight Cry to the Sunday Law is a binding off, so then the binding off from 9/11 to the Midnight Cry is also a 2. Therefore, then that 7 is split into a 5-2,
Yeah.
and this is a 2-5.
That's how I seen it.
Yeah, that's my point. I disagree with you, but I think he expressed you correctly, but differently than you.
Okay.
This here is a 7-2.
This here is a 7-2. Okay.
So you were saying, if at a fractal level, if this was to be the binding off and it was a 2, you were saying it would be a 5,
Yeah.
Right.
but it wouldn't.
Okay.
If you're going to use your logic, it should be a 7.
It should be a 7.
This is a 7 and a 2.
Okay.
The 5 comes
Yeah.
afterwards.
You're right. You're right.
If this was a 2, this would be a 5.
You're right.
And I don't know what that means. I'm not dealing with that,
Yeah.
but you got your 5 and your 2 backwards if you're going to be consistent. But what's the 5 in there?
Wise. I don't know. Wise virgins.
Okay, what is this? What was it on October 22nd, 1844?
Closing and the opening.
5 wise entered into the marriage.
Okay, it was the 10th day of the 7th month, right? 10th day of the 7th month. It was the Day of Atonement. What's the next feast?
Tabernacle.
Feast of Tabernacles. When does it come?
5 days later.
5 days later.
Nice.
There would be tabernacles, but what is the Feast of Tabernacles representing? What did they do at the Feast of Tabernacles?
They dwelt in booths.
They dwelt in booths.
And
Okay, where are you going to be in this history?
In the
Mountains.
In the mountains. Okay, the angels are going to lead you to the mountains. So there was all kinds of stuff in there that he left out of his sermon that he wouldn't have had time to put in. I'm not criticizing his sermon. I'm just emphasizing that one of the things we have to return to is the opening of the temple.
what you said about this candlestick and about October 22nd is interesting because when you think of it on that level, then that's the path that we're on, and that's behind us, and then Christ is in the most holy place with his glorious right arm being lifted up and shedding light from the most holy place. I mean, at that illustration, it's the same thing.
Yeah, and this here, in the big level, okay, this is a 3-step testing process. For Adventism, this is our 3rd step. The first 9/11, the second is in here. Now I know we have a 3-step testing process in here, and then another here for the Levites. But at the big level, this is 1, 2, 3. Yes. So right here, the emphasis that he's putting upon the candlestick and the light and the seeing is in agreement with what we understand about the second test being. It is a visual test. You have to have the light here to recognize the visual test. What is the visual test in this history? Image of the beast. Okay, so it fit well with what we understand. But anyway, we will be, I assume, dealing with opening the temple. My brother.
Yeah, I was just kind of thinking here with the opening of the temple there, when you take a look at the light being also that of the law, being at the midnight cry, and then with the Sunday law and 9/11, we have both the coveting angels there, so you could see actually the covenant on both sides of it as well.
On both sides of it.
Yeah, because beginning of the covenant and the ending of the covenant.
Okay, beginning of the covenant here, ending here.
At 9/11.
Oh, at 9/11.
beginning
Okay,
of the
okay, all right.
And ending of the covenant at 9/11, at Sunday law.
All right. As far as opening the temple and not necessarily responding to his point, but on his point, I don't know that we've resolved yet, but when we came to understand that the midnight cry is the Shekinah, all right, we could say it that way. This is where the light is, and that there's an angel here and an angel here. I don't know that we've settled yet whether there are two angels here and then two more here, or if there's just two. Do you know why I'm saying that?
Yeah,
Because of why?
because there's two angels on the ark, and there's two that in Solomon's temple that stand next to the ark.
Okay, so we're still grappling with that. Doesn't say anything about what you were saying, but these are the kind of things that we still have to resolve if we can through the Lord's leading about the sanctuary. Any other? This wouldn't be the fourth element of the prediction. This would be all its own. Any other thoughts about where we might end up? What was unresolved? Brother Tyler had this burden on his heart for me to explain what the curriculum for this class was going to be in advance. Is there anything I'm leaving out? I mean, if we'll be touching on these, Lord willing, it is going to be much more difficult than typically. Because typically in the class that I was leading out, I get an hour and a half.
You got half that.
I got
45.
I got 30 minutes.
That's 45 minutes.
45.
You look closely at the schedule I have 30 minutes.
You got the
Does anyone have a schedule here?
It should be 45.
It's 5:15 to 6 o'clock.
Yeah, 5:15.
Okay, it says 5:15 to 5:45 on the schedule I printed out.
Oh, the schedules have been updated.
You got the old.
Okay,
got the
that's
old
better.
one.
But even then, that's only half the time. Okay, that's only half the time, which is all right. And so, when the Brazilian camp meeting begins and Parminder leaves, then wherever I have reached in the evening worships, I'm going to take his class, and then it will expand to an hour and a half until he returns from Brazil. And the times that we leave, such as this week when Kathy and I take off for Alabama, we're probably going to leave Thursday afternoon, so someone will have to sub that worship for me, and Lord willing, I will give them handouts or whatever direction on what to do to keep it going in the right direction.
We
Mr.
actually
Brown.
have a backup worship plan that involves reading through the testimonies when you're not available, so that we don't fall, that your train of thought stays consistent. If that's
Oh.
all right with you. There's a testimonies book when somebody isn't available that we're just going to start going through.
Not recorded, just
Not recorded,
amongst
just
us
as a
as,
group
worship.
reading it, if that's all right.
Okay, now
Probably just a half hour.
another. How many? I relate to Sister Madison, who is the cook here, as kind of a half employee. Okay, she's a full-time employee. She does as much work as all the other people here, but she's not at the same level as say Michael and Brittany, who isn't here, and Tyler and Brahma and Jason. Is there, and Gabriel. Gabriel now is Tamina.
Tamina.
So that makes 7 employees, so to speak. It's not enough to do everything that we're doing. And I forgot where I was going with that thought also. Okay, now I know where I'm going with that thought. So a question was raised yesterday that has been raised before, and it's not really up to this class to decide this question. but you need to be aware of it. The desire by some, and this isn't the first trimester this desire has been voiced, is that the classes that Daniel and Dwayne teach also get recorded and put on the web. And the thing about that is we're having a discussion here. Okay. The thing about that is it's more time consuming and more man hours than you're aware of if you just think about running the camera. Okay. So if that happens, the little bit I heard yesterday was that it would happen probably by assigning Chris the responsibility to learn how to run these cameras and this switcher. That's why he was set back there right off the bat. We don't know if that's going to happen because it's a bigger work than most people understand. And Chris is here to learn. And another thing most of us do not understand, that if you're doing the camera work the way you're supposed to, you really are not absorbing the class. You just can't do it. If you're going to do the camera right, you have to pay attention. Like already, Tyler's been bossing me around here this morning. Sister Brown?
The recording is the tiniest part of the work, because after that it has to be edited and turned into work, and it's something like, if you did an hour of recording, you're looking at quite a few hours just to produce that. So it's not just recording it and then you have to store it, so it's a huge work.
And we're already adding an extra one, because we're gonna record Parminders, and then we're gonna record your worship, and that's already twice as much as what we're normally used
And all
to
the
doing.
speakers are gonna be recorded.
Yeah, it's
Or
just not realistic.
Yeah, and we just
Follow
recently
right now.
have taken up
Are you?
the work of recording the Sabbath school and the sermons
Yeah.
at the church every Sabbath and putting them on the web. So the reason this came up was not necessarily for the class. It was for Dwayne. He likes to go back over and critique his own presentation. So he wanted a copy of his presentation so he could critique. So the thought kind of snowballed from there. But anyway, that's in the mix. Any questions?
I was going to say regarding the recording, there's little shortcuts and little things you can do. So kind of upload it straight away as you record. And if you got the right mixer, you can edit it right there and then on the spot. So you're saving, I don't know if you're using the SD card or using, see there's another shortcut you could use, save using tape. To use the SD card and you've already got it, you don't need to waste time importing. And if you do it in a smaller file, it's easier to render. So there's loads of little, it doesn't have to be so long.
The problem is cost for the equipment. We have a certain setup, and
That's right.
we've already reevaluated how to get it to that way, like you're talking, but it's pretty expensive.
Even without that, you can just get a standard laptop and you can just with a FireWire port, you can just capture it straight onto the computer and you can just bypass the tape. So
Well, so
I'm from that background, so I can have a look and I've already spoke with Tyler already. So
yeah, you
The
need to
thing
talk
is
to Jason and Tyler.
Jason
Okay.
Tyler. But the thing is how many men do you want to pull to sit there and I mean,
Yeah, he
like
gets
we have Michael and Tyler, and they're pretty much our main workers. And to pull them and say, okay, Tyler, you do all of
I don't mind
all
telling
of it,
Tyler to do
then
that.
it's all left up to Michael. We just don't have the manpower to do it all.
Yep.
It's not
Anyway.
realistic.
Discuss it with Jason and Tyler.
And we want it to be good.
Yeah, we want it to be good.
And we want it
Not
to be
just-
good.
I see a
Okay,
lot
so
of videos on YouTube that
Junk.
6:30,
You're the
7:30. Hey, we're
yeah,
pretty
10
much on
minutes.
target. Any other questions about your living quarters? What's going on here?
Have them
I tell
be
you
answered
something.
tomorrow.
I know today's the first day. I get it, and but particularly the Germans. I have no sympathy with them not being on time here this morning, because Germans are typically very timely. Okay,
Yes, they are.
they dropped the ball this morning. Now, the people from the UK, I expected maybe we would have to lean on them, but we have to be timely. It impacts the very few minutes that we have. We
Not
don't
just
want
for
to.
class
It's
too.
required. It's
Everything.
required that we're on.
Yeah, for everything, particularly, so you know it, when it comes to meal times, sometimes we end up in a discussion rather than going right over there and eating, and it's not good for the kitchen staff when they've prepared it and they want it to be eaten.
clean
They
it
want
up.
you there.
Yeah.
They have to clean it up. They have to move on. So
For the next meal.
timeliness at every step is essential.
I think they'll go over that in the orientation.
Yeah, okay.
Tomorrow morning. All day.
Oh, tomorrow morning is the orientation?
So we
Yeah.
will cover
When
it
everybody's here.
Because we want
Okay.
everyone to be.
I'm robbing from your orientation.
No, there's
Repetition
nothing
is
wrong with
good.
repetition, that's right.
Deepens the impression.
Because when our last trimester, for the first week, I can remember, if it wasn't me, it was somebody else telling all the people up front, go eat, go eat. And they had to be
More
reminded
people, the
over
times
and
and the-
over again.
It's going to be much more difficult now. We've never had this many students.
Mhm.
So we need your support in this. Bronwyn?
We have moved the meal time up till 8:15 in the morning. Class stops at 8. It gives us a period of time, so I don't think it'll be an issue this
Yeah,
time.
Oh,
shouldn't be.
okay.
But still,
15 minutes.
Okay.
That's good.
So if you have a problem in your room, this is orientation. Never mind.
You know, with the I was looking at the schedule with Michael yesterday, and it's like the school day is 12 hours, so it's quite long,
Yeah.
and to kind of to go over the material and try to, because you're saying we're gonna, because in the back of my head, I was trying to gather the information, and then trying to translate it in a way how I would deal with the brethren in the ministry that I'm working with in the UK. So in my head I was thinking to get the information and then kind of turn it into a presentation in some kind of way in my room. It's like there probably won't be time for that.
Well, it's 6, you have 6 to 9:30. You have lights out at 9:30 and you,
And
worship
4:30
is
to
over.
6:30 in the morning if you get up at
And
4:30.
4:30 and 6:30, yeah, it is what it is. We have tried to work on the scheduling. I can say we, and I don't mean we.
There's
and
certain
them.
requirements, which this is what we were talking about yesterday. It makes it difficult. Is that Spirit of Prophecy, when she talks about institutions, there are certain requirements of dividing up your time that make it pretty hard to schedule. It's one of the most difficult things we have ever had to do is schedule.
It is.
And this time we have the most intricate scheduling that we've ever had too.
Yeah.
Sister Bronwyn?
For me, if I was to pay a certain amount of money to come to an institution, I would be disappointed to see that they had not filled my day up.
So you won't be disappointed here, brother.
won't
This
be
is not the
disappointed.
disappointment. Your day is filled up. It's always the case. Everyone always has this initial shock.
Where do we study? That's the biggest issue that people have.
Yeah.
You're
There's
studying.
always-
Well, you're studying when you're in the classes. I mean, you're learning when you're in the classes. The only time you won't be learning is when you're actually doing the physical labor, which is Ellen White says if you're, or the pioneers
You'll
said
be
if you're
learning
to
that.
err
You'll be
on
learning.
one or the other, you err on getting outside longer than you do in the classroom.
But
it's
she
important
also
to be
teaches
outside.
you should be learning there too. You'll be learning there too.
Yes.
You should be thinking about it, assimilating what you've.
If it goes right, from my little interaction, I so far I've always asked the students as they left, what they thought about their trimester. There's a dynamic of interaction that goes on among the staff and the students while they're here that contributes. It's probably just as beneficial as the classroom in some regard. You'll figure out how to mold your time together where I'm assuming where it will be a benefit to you. Everyone else has always understood it that way. But you're expressing a dilemma that everyone,
It's been
Deals
common
with.
since the beginning.
yeah. And we don't know how to get around it because you're dealing with so many variables.
Because if you leave out classes and it's like you're not learning, and then you just, it creates.
You have
And you have to
free
have
time
it
on
at work.
Friday, but of course Friday you have to do your
You have to have
cleaning.
You have most of all.
as
almost
much
all Friday.
physical,
Almost all
practical
Friday.
labor as classroom. It's a trick, and then when you're doing it
Meal
based
times.
upon
Meals.
the agriculture around here, there's times in the summertime, in the trimester in the summertime here, you don't want to be working in the afternoon.
So you gotta flip it.
Yeah, so it's a hard. The scheduling is hard.